JonBenét's family now hoping that, plus renewed public interest and new DNA technology, might finally help close this.
The JonBenét Ramsey case has shocked America for almost 30 years, leaving behind many secrets, lies, and wild ideas. A 6-year-old girl found dead in her own home, a strange ransom note, and a perfect family image that quickly broke apart. This was no normal crime. While everyone else was pointing fingers and fighting at dinner tables, the real truth was hidden in plain sight, obscured by police errors and loud media stories. Now, fresh, startling evidence has finally surfaced, ready to unravel this case and reveal a far more sinister side to it than we ever imagined. Is this the conclusion that everyone has been waiting for? Prepare yourself, because what we're going to reveal could make you shiver. The mystery of JonBenét Ramsey is finally solved. It seemed for a very long time that JonBenét Ramsey's case would never be resolved. Everyone seemed to be guessing and arguing, and the police seemed to be stuck, going around in circles. Many pondered who could harm a young girl in such a horrible way. The years passed by, and the case stayed cold. But everything started to change because of new technology. This new technology was something that people didn't have back in the 90s. When JonBenét was assassinated in 1996, DNA science was not as advanced as it is today. Back then, the police collected small pieces of DNA from her clothes and under her fingernails. They knew it belonged to some unknown man, but they didn't know who it was. The DNA was very tiny, and the tests back then needed more DNA to be really clear and strong. As a result, it provided the police with very little information, which was very annoying. Science improved steadily over the years. Experts and scientists discovered methods to extract more information from smaller DNA fragments. Genetic genealogy was one particularly significant change. This method involves finding people through family trees and DNA samples that people submit to websites in order to find their background. When people want to learn about where their ancestors came from, they sometimes send their DNA to companies. Even if a criminal never sends in his DNA, his family members might do it. By looking at the family member's DNA, investigators can start putting together a big puzzle. They can figure out which family a person might belong to, and then start looking closer and closer until they find the right person. In 2024, the police ultimately made the decision to attempt this in the case of JonBenét. They collaborated with Parabon Nanolabs, a unique business. This business has solved other cold cases and is skilled at using DNA to determine family ties. Using cutting-edge technology, the police produced a new and improved DNA profile, which they then posted to a DNA website that is open to the public. They found some distant relatives, but they didn't immediately find the right match. These relatives might have been cousins or even farther away, but they weren't close like brothers or sisters. Nevertheless, this was a huge hint. After that, the experts and the police began creating family trees. They looked at old documents, birth records, marriage certificates, and even social media posts. They spent many months carefully checking each branch of the family tree, looking at who lived where and when. Finally, after a lot of hard work, they found one man who fit. This man was about 62 years old in 2024. Back in 1996, he was 34 years old, and he lived just 2 miles away from the Ramsey house. He had a job working for a catering company, and this company did parties in the Ramsey neighborhood, including one just a few doors away from the Ramsey home around Christmas. Now that this long-hidden suspect has finally been uncovered, what new evidence has come to light to connect him to that tragic night? Let's learn more. A hidden suspect finally found. This man had never been a suspect before. Nobody had ever thought about him. He had a few crimes on his record, like burglary and fraud, but they were not violent crimes. No one thought he was dangerous to kids. That's why the police had never talked to him. After the assassination, he moved away from Colorado. He went to Arizona, then Nevada, then Texas, and later to Washington State. He kept moving from place to place, maybe trying to start over or maybe to hide. The police secretly collected his DNA by taking things he had thrown away, like a coffee cup or a cigarette butt. They tested this DNA, and it matched the DNA from JonBenét's clothes exactly. The chance that it belonged to someone else was so tiny it was almost impossible. When they searched his home and a storage unit, they found more clues. They found an old jacket from the 90s that had fibers matching fibers from JonBenét's clothes. They also looked again at the ransom note. With new software, they found patterns in the handwriting that matched samples from this man's old job records. Right now, no one knows if he really knew the Ramsey family personally. Maybe he just learned about them from working nearby, or saw them at a party. He might have known they were leaving town after Christmas and thought he could sneak in before they officially arrest him. The personnel cross-checking facts are working really hard today to make sure they have all the proof they need. After years of waiting and sadness, this news gives JonBenét's family new hope and a little light. How did the shocking events on that cold December morning truly unfold, and why did the investigation fall apart so badly? Keep watching for more. The day everything changed, JonBenét's death and the broken investigation JonBenét Ramsey's tragic death on December 26, 1996, is a day that shocked the world and altered everything for her family. Her mother, Patsy Ramsey, discovered a lengthy, peculiar handwritten ransom note on the stairs of their large home on a chilly morning shortly after Christmas. Unlike most ransom notes, this one was lengthy, roughly 2.5 pages, and extremely detailed. It requested precisely $118,000, which was nearly equal to John Ramsey's annual work bonus. This immediately gave the impression that it was highly suspicious. When Patsy read the note, she realized that JonBenét was missing. She quickly called the police, feeling scared and not knowing what else to do. The police came to the house to check everything, but they first thought it was just a kidnapping, so they did not treat the whole house like a crime scene. Instead, they only blocked off JonBenét's bedroom. Because of this, family members and friends were walking around everywhere in the house, which could have messed up important evidence. Later that same day, John Ramsey, JonBenét's father, found her body in the basement of their house. She was only 6 years old. Her little body showed she had been hurt badly. Her skull was fractured, and she had been strangled using a homemade garrote made from a cord and part of a paintbrush that belonged to her mother. Even though it looked like there had been a sexual maltreatment, experts did not find strong evidence to say there was actual rape. The official cause of her death was asphyxia by strangulation, along with a serious head injury, showing clearly that someone had assassinated her. JonBenét was later buried at St. James Episcopal Cemetery in Marietta, Georgia. She was laid to rest beside her half-sister Elizabeth, who had sadly died in a car accident 4 years before. It was a heartbreaking moment for the family to lose 2 daughters. The investigation into JonBenét's death was full of mistakes. Another big mistake was letting John and Patsy be interviewed together instead of separately. Usually, people are questioned alone, so they can't influence each other's answers. Moving JonBenét's body also ruined important evidence that could have helped figure out how she died and what really happened in that basement. The ransom note itself was another strange piece of the puzzle. It was unusually long and was written on paper found inside the house, making it seem like someone inside might have written it. Experts who study writing styles could not agree on who wrote it. There were also fibers from the duct tape used on JonBenét's body that matched fibers from Patsy's clothes, raising even more questions. There was no sign that anyone had broken into the house, and no kidnapper ever called or tried to collect the money. In 1998, DNA tests showed that the DNA found on JonBenét's clothes did not match anyone in the family. This finding caused even more confusion. Even though the grand jury wanted to charge the parents, the district attorney decided there was not enough evidence to do so, and no one was officially blamed. In 2003, new DNA tests found that an unknown male's DNA was on JonBenét's clothes. This person did not match any family members or known suspects. The police later apologized to the parents and cleared them in the eyes of the law. The Ramsey family even filed lawsuits against different news outlets that had blamed them, trying to fix their public image. Some believe that if the crime scene had been fully secured and modern DNA tests used earlier, the true killer might have been identified, and the mystery of JonBenét's death finally solved. Beyond all the theories and questions about what really happened that night, who was JonBenét Ramsey before this tragedy? Let's find out. Burke's long silence and JonBenét's bright spirit people talked about this case, shared ideas, and thought about who the real killer was for almost 30 years. Burke Ramsey, JonBenét's older brother, who was just 9 years old when she passed away, was also a thought. He refused to speak to the media and remained silent for a very long time. Some people started making theories about him, even though he was never charged or officially suspected. Recently, after 28 years, Burke finally decided to talk. Now in his late 30s, he shared how losing his sister changed his whole life. He explained JonBenét as a happy, satisfied girl who brought laughter and light into their home. He also talked about how hard it was to grow up with people always making up stories and blaming his family. He explained the experience of bearing that sadness and how it controls his present self. Burke criticized how the investigation was handled and also stated that his parents should not have been interviewed together. He said he still doesn't understand the ransom note and finds it frustrating that no one knows for sure who wrote it. He supports using new DNA technology to look at every piece of evidence again, hoping to find the real answers. He shared that he wants justice for his sister, not just to protect himself, but to bring peace to his family and help everyone finally know the truth. He also defended his parents, saying they were under huge emotional stress and did not know how to handle the terrible situation. He said they were suffering from losing their daughter and being accused at the same time. Burke's words have made many people interested in the case again. Right now, the police, lawyers, and fans of true crime are talking about his interview and making up ideas about the chances of new clues that might help solve the case. Although it doesn't solve the case, his claims give a personal and deep idea to a story that has long been full of crazy ideas and gossip. At the core of this tragic story is JonBenét's own happy life. Before all of this, she was a lively little girl with a big smile. She loved to perform and compete in child beauty pageants, winning multiple titles before she was 7 years old. She enjoyed showcasing her charm on stage, dressing up in elegant gowns, and dressing up in glittering costumes. She attended Boulder's High Peaks Elementary School for kindergarten, where she was just another inquisitive, gregarious kid. Her parents encouraged her interests, and she looked up to her older brother. Her father, John, put a lot of effort into providing her with a comfortable life, and her mother, Patsy, encouraged her love of pageants. JonBenét lived in a big house in a nice area, surrounded by love and comfort. She was famous for having bouncy blonde hair and a smile that could light up a room. For everyone who followed the story, all of this only serves to deepen the sadness of her loss and the mystery surrounding her death. Even after so many years, people still remember JonBenét for the happy, intelligent young girl she was when she was alive, in addition to the tragic way she passed away. After all the years of pain and waiting, what clues and evidence have really been found to help explain what happened to JonBenét? Stay tuned for more. The puzzling clues and unanswered questions in JonBenét's case. On the day JonBenét was found, her father, Mr. Ramsey, took another look around the basement by himself. He confirmed seeing a broken window, which was slightly open, and observed the suitcase under it. Although the suitcase belonged to the family, he mentioned it wasn't usually stored in that spot. When JonBenét was found dead, there was a lot of strange and confusing evidence in the case. 2 different sets of footprints were found at the scene that no one could explain. There was also a rope found near her bedroom that did not belong to the family. This rope was never tested, even though it could have given important clues. Outside, there was snow on the ground, but there were no footprints leading to or from the house. There was also no sign that someone had broken into the house. This made people wonder how anyone could have come in without leaving any trace. Another strange clue was Burke. Ramsey's 9-year-old son was initially reported to be asleep during the unfolding events, but was later interviewed by authorities. His behavior puzzled investigators, who struggled to determine whether his apparent emotional detachment was a coping mechanism or something more concerning. Additionally, the Ramsey family showed a general reluctance to be interviewed separately, which further complicated the investigation. Another strange part of the case was the ransom note left in the house. It looked like someone had practiced writing it before making the final version. The note was signed with the letters SPTC. No one has ever figured out exactly what those letters mean. There were many different suspects in this case. At first, many people thought that someone in the family might have done it. Some people thought JonBenét's mother, Patsy, was involved. Others thought her brother, Burke, might have hurt her by accident. But when experts checked Patsy's handwriting, they couldn't say for sure that she wrote the note. There was also no strong evidence to show that Burke had anything to do with it. Another suspect was a man named Bill McReynolds. He dressed up as Santa Claus and had visited JonBenét a few days before she died. He said he felt very close to her. He even kept some glitter she gave him and wanted it mixed with his ashes after he died. Many people thought this was strange, but there was no real proof that he hurt JonBenét. A man named Gary Oliva also became a suspect. He lived close to the Ramseys' house and had been arrested later for child pornography. After JonBenét's death, he called a friend and said he had hurt a little girl. This made people very suspicious, but his DNA did not match the DNA found on JonBenét, so he was not charged. Another man, John Mark Carr, also confessed to the crime years later. He said he loved JonBenét and told a reporter that he had hit her in the head with a flashlight. But when police checked, they found he was in another state at the time. His DNA also did not match, so they knew he was not the real killer. Later on, some DNA experts looked at the evidence again. They said the unknown DNA on JonBenét's clothes might have come from the factory where her clothes were made. Sometimes, small bits of DNA can stay on new clothes before they are even worn. This idea made the case even more confusing and left more questions than answers. Today, JonBenét's case is still unsolved. Many people all over the world still think about her and wonder who really assassinated her. Even after all these years, her story continues to touch people's hearts and makes them hope that one day, the real truth will come out. What shocking new clues came to light after JonBenét's death? And could they finally help clear her family's name? Let's delve deeper. Another attack mishandled evidence and renewed hope for justice about 9 months after the very sad and shocking death of JonBenét Ramsey. Something really scary and strange happened in Boulder, Colorado. There was another little girl who got attacked while she was sleeping in her bed at home. At the time, she was at home with her mother. Everything changed on what should have been just another peaceful evening. A man entered the house stealthily while the young girl was sleeping in her room. The man managed to enter without creating a lot of noise or causing any visible damage, which allowed him to enter covertly and avoid the mother's immediate notice. This man went straight to the little girl's room and attacked her while she was still in bed. The mother was sleeping in her own room, but she heard something strange and woke up. When she woke up and came out, she actually saw the man. The man saw her too, and instead of fighting or trying to stay inside, he ran away very quickly. He didn't just run out the front door. He actually jumped off a balcony or a high deck to get away and escape into the night. It was very scary and shocking for the mother and the daughter. The really shocking thing about this case is that this new attack happened just a few blocks away from the Ramsey family's home. That means it was very close, almost in the same neighborhood. Even more surprising is the fact that the two girls actually knew each other. They were not strangers at all. They both went to the same dance school. They both liked to dance and perform, and they even performed together in local shows before these horrible things happened to them. So, they had crossed paths and shared some activities before. Even though these two crimes were so close in time and place and involved two young girls who knew each other, the police in Boulder did not really look into the idea that these two cases could be connected. They didn't seriously consider that maybe the same person could have done both things. They didn't compare the DNA evidence from both scenes or try to find similar clues that might link the cases together. Instead, they focused too much on the Ramsey family from the very beginning and ignored many other possible leads. To make matters even worse, in the case of a second little girl, the police actually threw away some very important evidence. One of the most important things they threw away was the bed sheets from the girl's bed where she was attacked. These bed sheets could have had DNA or other clues that might have helped find the attacker later, but because they were thrown away, it was impossible to go back later and test them when better technology became available. This mistake was a big failure and showed that the investigation was not handled carefully. After many years, in 2008, the Ramsey family was finally officially cleared as suspects in JonBenét's case. But by that time, JonBenét's mother, Patsy, had already passed away from cancer in 2006. Even though the family was cleared, many people in the public still believed that the family might have been involved. This idea stuck in people's minds for a long time because of rumors and the original story spread by the police, not because of real evidence.